On July 4, 2018, inside a hospital in England, a paramedic was walking down a hallway when his supervisor suddenly stopped him. Her face looked pale, nervous, almost scared. She asked him a strange question. She wanted to know if he had responded to a specific emergency call a few days earlier. The paramedic paused, trying to remember. Then he nodded and said yes. It had been a completely normal call. Nothing unusual, nothing memorable. At least, that's what he thought. The supervisor swallowed hard and told him she would explain everything in a moment. But first, she needed him to remove all of his equipment, his uniform, his boots, everything, immediately, because there was a serious chance that what he was wearing could kill him. But to understand how something so ordinary turned into something so terrifying, we need to go back a few days earlier. On the afternoon of June 29, 2018, a 44-year-old woman named Dawn Sturgis was sitting on a blanket in a public park in Salisbury, England. The sun was out. She had a bottle of wine, around her were a few friends and, most importantly, her boyfriend, Charlie Rowley. This was Dawn's favorite way to spend a Friday. Relaxing in the park, laughing, drinking, and being close to Charlie. They had been together for about 16 months, and to Dawn he was the brightest part of her life. Because truthfully, Dawn's life had been extremely hard. She struggled with alcoholism for many years. She also lived with bipolar disorder that went undiagnosed for a long time. Because of that, holding down a job had been nearly impossible. For the past 2 years, she had been living in a therapeutic group home, trying to stabilize her life. Then she met Charlie. On paper, they didn't seem like a good match at all. Charlie was addicted to heroin. He didn't have steady work. He often had problems with the law. People in Dawn's life worried that he would drag her down even further. But somehow, together they felt happy. They spent most of their time together moving between each other's places, hanging out in parks, spending time with friends, and for the first time in years, Dawn felt hopeful. She still drank alcohol, but she finally got proper treatment for her bipolar disorder. She was on medication. She felt stable. She even planned to move out of the group home and into her own apartment soon. She wanted a fresh start. Because of all this progress, Dawn planned a small family get-together in a few days. She wanted her family to see how well she was doing, and she really wanted Charlie to come with her. But on this particular Friday afternoon, as they sat in the park, Dawn was angry with him. Before arriving, Charlie and some of their friends had used heroin and other substances. Charlie was clearly high, loud, careless, and acting like a jerk. Dawn had just bought new hair dye to prepare for meeting her family. But Charlie, joking around, started wasting it by dyeing his beard and eyebrows. Dawn snapped, not just because he wasted the dye but because she imagined him showing up to meet her family looking completely unhinged. She told him how serious this was. Eventually, Charlie washed most of it out. Still, Dawn was upset. She stood up, grabbed her things, and stormed off alone. Hours later, around 10 p.m., Dawn was lying on Charlie's couch. The earlier anger had faded. She listened as Charlie and their friend Sam talked quietly about life, about how unfair and unpredictable everything felt. Earlier, Dawn had gone back to her own place, dyed her hair, and even called her mother. She asked if she could see her youngest child the next day at the family gathering. Her mother agreed. Dawn felt hopeful again. She got up to take her nightly medication, carefully stepping over the clutter in Charlie's apartment. Charlie was known for bringing home random items he found on the street or in dumpsters. The place was messy, but Dawn navigated it easily. She took her pills, returned to the couch, and within minutes, fell asleep. The next morning, Dawn woke up around 9:30 a.m. with a mild headache, a small hangover, nothing serious. Charlie sat next to her and said good morning. Dawn didn't feel like talking yet. Then Charlie suddenly smiled. He told her he had a gift for her. He disappeared into the kitchen and returned holding a box. Dawn was surprised. Gifts were rare in her life. Money was always tight. She opened the box. Inside was a brand new expensive bottle of perfume. Dawn gasped. She couldn't believe it. She hugged Charlie tightly and told him she loved it. She sprayed some on her wrists and rubbed them together, smiling at the scent. Then she handed the bottle back and asked him to put it somewhere safe. 5 minutes later, Dawn sat back on the couch applying makeup. She was talking about adding a blue streak to her hair when her headache suddenly became intense. She stopped speaking. She felt dizzy, lightheaded. She started sweating heavily. Something felt wrong. She told Charlie she didn't feel good and rushed to the bathroom. By the time she splashed water on her face, her body felt like it was burning. She climbed into the empty bathtub, hoping the cold surface would help. Then her breathing became shallow. From the living room, Charlie heard strange noises, water running, then stopping, then a gurgling sound. He rushed to the bathroom. Dawn was lying in the tub, fully clothed, foaming at the mouth. Charlie panicked. He pulled her onto the floor and tried to see if she was breathing. He couldn't tell. He called emergency services. The dispatcher told him to begin CPR. For 19 minutes, Charlie performed chest compressions while waiting for help. By the time paramedics arrived, Dawn had started turning blue. They worked on her for over an hour before she was stable enough to move. Charlie followed them to the ambulance, telling Dawn he would meet her at the hospital, but he didn't go. Because Charlie was addicted to heroin and he knew withdrawal would hit him hard. Instead, he filled a methadone prescription. A few hours later, back in his apartment, Charlie began feeling sick, sweating, headache, confusion. He took a shower, but it got worse. His pupils shrank, his heart raced, then his body seized. Sam called an ambulance. By the next day, both Dawn and Charlie were in intensive care. Doctors thought it was an overdose. They were wrong. At this point, if you're re-feeling that quiet tension, building that sense that something much bigger is happening, take 1 second to like the video and subscribe. Because stories like this don't just shock you, they stay with you. Doctors soon discovered something terrifying. This wasn't drugs. This was poison. And not just any poison. It was a military-grade nerve agent, one that should never exist outside a battlefield. And it had just killed an innocent woman. The investigation that followed uncovered a shocking international plot. Just a few months earlier, in the same town of Salisbury, a former Russian spy named Sergei Skripal and his daughter Yulia were found unconscious on a park bench. They had been poisoned with the exact same nerve agent, called Novichok. It had been secretly applied to the front door handle of their home. Miraculously, both of them survived. The attack was believed to be an assassination attempt by Russian intelligence agents. But after the incident, a huge cleanup operation was launched across the city to decontaminate every area the Skripals had visited. Somehow, they missed one tiny, critical item, that perfume bottle. The assassins had used a modified perfume bottle to transport and apply the Novichok after the attack. They simply threw it away. And by a 1 in a million chance, Charlie Rowley found it. Thinking he'd stumbled upon a discarded but expensive gift, he took it home. He had no idea he was carrying a chemical weapon. When he gave it to Dawn, neither of them could have known that a single spray contained a lethal dose, many times more than what was used on the Skripals. The amount Dawn applied to her wrists was so concentrated, she had no chance of survival. Charlie was also exposed, but to a much lesser degree. He likely got a small amount on his hands when he picked up the bottle after Dawn used it. He spent weeks in a coma but eventually woke up. When he did, he had to be told that Dawn, the woman he loved, was gone. The gift he had been so excited to give her had killed her. In the aftermath, the perfume bottle was found and safely disposed of. Charlie eventually recovered, but he has been haunted by what happened ever since. The story of Dawn Sturgis is a tragic reminder of how an invisible act of war, played out on quiet suburban streets, can have devastating and random consequences. She wasn't a spy or a political target. She was a mother, a daughter, and a woman who was just starting to find hope again. Her life was not collateral damage. It was a life full of potential, cut short by a weapon that should never have left a lab. On the afternoon of July 3rd, the lives of Dawn Sturgis and Charlie Rowley took a dark turn. Both were unconscious, both on ventilators. Doctors were scrambling, monitoring their every breath, their heartbeats and their brain activity. Dawn was critically ill. Charlie, while alive, was completely unresponsive. The lead doctor, Stephen Jukes, was running out of ideas. He'd considered everything: common toxins, drug overdoses, food poisoning, even a gas leak, but nothing made sense. Dawn's tests came back clean of recreational drugs. showing only her prescribed medication. And Charlie, he had traces of heroin and methadone, but the severity of his symptoms was off the charts, far beyond what he'd taken. They had been exposed to something rare, something lethal. Investigators swarmed Charlie's apartment, quarantining it immediately. Officers in full hazmat suits swabbed every single surface. The nurses and paramedics who had first treated the couple were ordered to bag their uniforms as potential biohazards. A palpable fear gripped the city. The situation was spiraling into a full-blown crisis, and no one knew why. 4 days later, on July 8th, the worst happened. Dawn was taken off life support. She died. Charlie remained alive but trapped in silence, unable to speak. For Philip Murphy, a deputy head in a counter-terrorism unit, this was only the chilling beginning. Murphy's team went back into Charlie's apartment, wading through the overwhelming clutter. Empty bottles, used needles, dirty dishes, and makeup boxes were everywhere. But then, an officer spotted something that didn't belong. A brand new sealed bottle of perfume sitting on the kitchen counter. It looked completely out of place. The story was that Charlie had bought it as a gift for Dawn just that morning. But the investigation revealed something stranger. He'd actually found it in a public donation bin. An odd habit, but not unheard of for him. However, this wasn't just any bin. It had been used by a Russian agent months earlier. Let's rewind 3.5 months. In the nearby city of Salisbury, a Russian ex-spy and his daughter were poisoned. They were rushed to the hospital with eerily similar symptoms: seizures, vomiting, and unresponsiveness. At the time, doctors couldn't identify the poison. It was only later that they discovered it was Novichok, one of the deadliest nerve agents ever created, developed by Russia. Suddenly, all the pieces clicked into place. Dawn, excited by the gift, had sprayed the perfume on her wrists. She had no idea it was laced with Novichok. The very same chemical weapon that had nearly killed the spy and his daughter was now in the hands of an innocent woman. Charlie had also been exposed, though less directly, which is why he managed to survive after intensive care. The implications were staggering. Every single person who came into contact with that perfume bottle, the paramedics, the police, the doctors, the nurses, had been put at risk. Entire neighborhoods could have been contaminated. The city of Salisbury was on the brink of a biological disaster that could have been catastrophic. The investigation ultimately confirmed that 3 Russian agents were involved. Their target had been the ex-PI Sergei Skripal, not Dawn and Charlie. But in a cruel twist of fate, a discarded weapon of assassination had become a death sentence for an innocent woman who just happened to find it. Charlie physically recovered, but the psychological scars would never fade. He lost Dawn, the woman he loved, and was forced to live with the unbearable truth that she died because of a chance encounter with a hidden weapon. Authorities launched a massive decontamination effort, securing the apartment and the donation bin site. New safety protocols were rolled out across the city. MI5 and international security agencies worked tirelessly, tracking every possible link to prevent another tragedy. The story sent shockwaves not just across the UK, but around the world. It was a terrifying reminder that danger can appear in the most ordinary, unsuspecting forms, even a simple gift of perfume from someone you love. Dawn Sturgis's death became a symbol of caution, a harsh lesson learned. The people of Salisbury would never forget her story. Charlie's survival was a medical miracle, a testament to the doctors who fought for his life. But his story is also a heavy one. He survived one of the deadliest chemical weapons in existence, only to witness the death of his partner, and live with the knowledge that the enemy can strike silently through the most mundane objects of everyday life. In the aftermath, the UK government overhauled its chemical safety regulations. Public awareness campaigns educated citizens on the potential threats of chemical exposure. Emergency services strengthened their protocols, and paramedics were trained to recognize and handle unexpected chemical hazards. From a simple afternoon in a park to a desperate fight for life in a hospital, the story of Dawn and Charlie became one of the most chilling examples of how fragile our lives are and how randomly danger can strike. It showed the world that sometimes the most innocent moments, a hug, a smile, a gift, can unexpectedly intersect with international espionage and deadly weapons. Dawn's memory lives on through her family, her friends, and the vital lessons learned from this tragedy. Charlie's recovery is a testament to human resilience, but their story serves as a permanent warning. Even the smallest, most ordinary things can hide a deadly secret, just waiting to be found. Thank you for listening. If this story left you shocked, confused, or just a little uneasy, take a moment to share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want more stories like this strange, dark, mysterious, and all true, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Because sometimes the truth is far stranger and far more terrifying than fiction.